Hello again, folks. This is a follow-up for the first video that focuses on used car values and residuals. If you haven't seen the first video yet, please make sure to watch it in order to better understand this information. The first thing that we have to understand is that aside from collector-grade vehicles, automobiles are not investments. In my opinion, automobiles are a transportation expense, and the best we could hope for is to drive something that we like in the smartest way possible. In the first video, I showed you that rapidly declining used car values will likely intensify in the next 3 years due to excess supply. So how can you protect yourself and still drive a vehicle that you like? I'm going to use this 2016 BMW 328i to illustrate how to do that. There are 3 ways to purchase this vehicle. You can pay cash, you can finance, or you can lease. We're going to compare all 3 to see which one makes most sense. To make the comparison as accurate as possible, the sale price will remain the same on all 3 scenarios. Let's start with the lease. This is the advertisement on BMWUSA.com for the month of February. The advertisement states that we can lease this vehicle with an MSRP of $39,345 for $339 per month with $4,264 due at signing. The lease allows 10,000 miles per year and has a 36-month duration. This is a national advertisement, so it excludes tax, title, license, dealer-installed items, and dealer dock fees. Those items are purposely left out because they will vary depending on the state, county, and dealer. I have excluded all of those fees from the comparisons other than taxes in order to simplify the math. Note that the residual value is $23,607. Try to remember that value as it will come up again at the end of this video. The only thing missing from this advertisement was the money factor, otherwise known as the rent charge or interest rate. I had to use an educated guess for that money factor in order to figure out the sale price. Here's what it looks like. Most national lease advertisements require dealer participation in the form of discounts. After applying the money factor to the equation, I came up with a sale price of $36,050. The payment of $366 includes tax on the base payment of $339, and I have kept the tax rate the same on all 3 scenarios. Excluding any end-of-lease charges like disposition fees or chargeable damage, we can simply add the sum of the payments plus the down payment to calculate the total expense. We get the sum of the payments by multiplying $366 times 35 months for a total of $12,818.05. 35 is used as the multiplier instead of 36 because the first payment on a lease is due at signing and is included in the $4,264 down payment. If we kept the lease till maturity, the total expense of this lease would be $17,982.06. We will now move on to the finance scenario. BMW is offering 2.99% financing up to 72 months. To keep the comparison equal, we will use the same sale price, tax rate, and down payment. This leaves us with a financed amount of $34,597.89. Utilizing the full term of the loan to yield the lowest payment possible, we get to a payment of $525 per month for 6 years. So let's take the sum of the first 3 years of payments, which is $18,918, plus the down payment of $4,264 for a total expense of $23,182. I picked 3 years because that's the same duration as the lease, and it's when I believe used car values will begin to bottom after most of the outstanding leases have expired. The cash scenario is simple. We just take the sale price plus tax and arrive at a total expense of $38,861.90. The lease offers residual protection and the option to simply return the vehicle to the lender. If we choose the finance scenario and no longer need the vehicle or want something different within 3 years, we have 2 things to consider. What's my vehicle worth and how much do I owe? If we paid cash, we just need to consider what the vehicle's worth. Let's look at what a 3-year-old BMW 328i with 30,000 miles is worth. If used car values remain stable for the next 3 years, we could expect this vehicle to be worth $15,600. If no additional payments are made on the finance scenario, in 3 years, the payoff amount will be $18,072.85, leaving us with a potential $2,472.85 deficiency. Add that deficiency to the total expense of the loan and you have a true cost of ownership for 3 years. For the cash scenario, we just need to subtract the wholesale value from the total upfront expense. Now let's compare all three side by side. With this lease example, there's no need to concern yourself with a loan balance or a wholesale value. If the wholesale value is lower than the residual value, the bank or manufacturer will be responsible for the difference. You simply return the lease at the end and there's no liability outside of excess miles, damage, and a small disposition fee. In a situation where a vehicle has a higher wholesale value than the residual value, you can purchase the vehicle or you can use the equity as a down payment towards another purchase. These equity positions are very rare today. If you paid cash, the difference between the upfront expense and the wholesale value gives us a total expense of $23,261.90. That's $5,279.84 more than the lease for the same 3-year period. If you chose to finance, the upfront expense was $23,192, plus the difference between the loan balance and wholesale value for a total of $25,664. That's $7,681.95 more than the lease. In this, and in most cases, leasing will be more economical and will protect you from rapidly declining used car values. One strong word of caution though, do not confuse a balloon for a lease. In a balloon, you guarantee the future value and you are responsible to pay the residual balance by refinancing or by making a lump sum payment. Did you remember the residual value at the beginning of the video? Did you scratch your head when I showed you what the same vehicle is worth in 3-year-old form with 30,000 miles? In the first video, I showed you that residuals are closely related to used car values. I showed you that used car values dropped, leaving manufacturers with unexpected residual losses and why it happened. It's hard to project the value of a 3-year-old vehicle into the future. But what do we call this? What do we call a difference of $8,007 in residual versus the used car value on a lease being offered today? In fairness to BMW, they're not the only manufacturer doing this. I can't interpret that $8,007 difference as anything other than a transportation subsidy and self-inflicted pain by the manufacturers. I say, take the deal. When the dust settles, you'll have a fantastic selection of used vehicles being offered at amazing prices. Thanks again for watching, and pass this video along if you found the information useful. You can find me on Twitter at DRUIZG80. Cheers.